Hey, this is Alex Chaparro, your host of the Century 21 Circle Top Agent Podcasts. And I affectionately call it TAP with Century 21 Circle. And today I am here with a talented lender and leader in the real estate industry. And I must say, one of the best online communicators with his 30-second reels. What this guy could say in 30 seconds is amazing. And to think that we're going to have him for like 30, 45 minutes. So please join me in welcoming to TAP. Yeah, we're here with my good friend, Jose Valdovinos. And Jose, I've known you for quite a while now. It's been a minute that I've known you, right?
Yeah, it has, Alex. You may have met me when I had hair and I was 6 feet tall. Just kidding about the 6 feet tall. I was never 6 feet tall, but I did certainly have a lot more hair when you met me.
I had hair when I was a kid, but
There you go.
I don't remember when, but it was a long time ago. I'm kind of hazy after everything. Like if the furthest I could go back is like 2011, and after that, everything is hazy.
Right. Yeah. Some
But
things we don't want to remember or go back to. And just look
yeah,
forward, Alex.
I like the future. I like my
That's right.
I like my present and the possibilities of the future. How's
There
that?
we go. There we go.
So I like to start things off with the origin story. You know that I watch too much comic books and these kinds of movies because now everybody's got to have an origin story. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what brought you to lending to be a loan officer, and what was that journey like?
Sure. I'll give you the abbreviated version. I grew up in the north side of Chicago, and I happened to work across the street from the building that my parents managed, and it was a convenience store. And I was quickly promoted to cashier after doing a really good job on sweeping the floors and stocking the shelves and mopping and wiping down the shelves, right? So I was 15 years old. They put me in the line of fire, I would say. And from there graduated to the lottery machine. I was supposed to say that I was not 15, but that I was 18, right? So business is no longer in business, so they're not going to get in trouble for any of this. And then from there,
Just so you know that I am an accomplished bagger.
oh, I love it. I
So
bet you were a heck of a bagger, Alex.
I must say I had skill.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit about my job's underage working experience, but I was quite a good bagger. But anyways, please proceed. I just wanted to.
Hey, I'll come back and test you and just to ask you where does the lettuce go last or do the eggs go first? Yeah, which one of the two go first, right?
I never had anybody unhappy with their placement of produce, canned goods, or meats.
I love it.
You know, I know how to organize.
I love it, Alex. That's awesome. So from there, after my 2-3 years of working at the convenience store, I quickly realized that once I graduated high school and started going to college, I was like, what else can I do besides this convenience store? I came upon a currency exchange as I was walking down the streets of Western and Peterson, and they had a for hire sign. I went in. The owner happened to be in the store that day, and he came across he came out of the back because, of course, they have that heavy glass and the closed doors. Said, when can you start? Gave him a little bit of my experience, and I started the following week. From there, that kind of moved on to a 2-3 year career within the currency exchange community, where I was able to manage, 2 or 3, and I was working crazy hours, making a lot of money at my age at that time, and I knew that had a ceiling. So I opened up the Sunday newspaper one day, and my daughter at that time was probably 6 months old, and I said, this isn't a career. I need to do more. And LaSalle Bank was hiring. They were holding an open house. Believe it or not, Alex, they had a little ad inside the Sunday paper on the want ads, and I called off of that little ad. And 3 interviews later, 3 months later, I was hired as a teller. Yep. And I was in the teller line, and I enjoyed it immensely. I worked at several LaSalle Bank locations, head teller, started cross training in personal banking. Really had a knack for handling, finances and money, other people's money, by the way, not my own. That's a whole nother topic that you got to bring an expert on. I got to figure that out for myself. But um, the story came where I was at the teller line, and there was a loan officer who's today my mentor, Richard Roller. He came in and said, "Hey, I need an assistant." And I had always had my hand raised to do more. And one of the personal bankers passed on it and offered me the opportunity. And 6 months later, I was a loan officer assistant. I didn't even know that mortgage had a T in it at that point, right? I grew up in an apartment, in a studio in the north side of Chicago, knew no different. I loved it. But from there, loan officer assistant, and then turned into 6 months later being a full-fledged loan officer, where I was told, "You're on your own." I asked one simple question: "Well, what does that pay?" And they told me it pays you nothing. But there's an unlimited potential of what you can earn.
Right. So, that's an interesting dynamic to what we do. And, our audience are top agents, realtors. Many of them are realtors. And, what drives a person to go to a independent contractor, 1099 position. So I've been in the business for 30 years. The first 20 years, this is right out of college. I went from college to a 1099 for the first 20 years of my career. So I didn't even know what that was like. The first time I worked for a job where they actually paid me a check every 2 weeks, I was like, I don't even know how to feel about this. This is wild,
Right.
But what drives your entrepreneurial spirit to, at a very young age, you basically were your own boss and you went far and wide with that. But what was it that was appealing to you that would bring you to being an independent?
I knew that, and this is going to sound funny, right? So I would go to, what drew me to the professional side of being in a career. I always wanted to be in a suit and tie, because I would go with my mom to change her check at the currency exchange. And I was always in awe of that, right? I was a 8, 9-year-old kid, glued to my mom's hip, and she'd bring me along, and I would see her make this transaction with the people behind the glass. I'm like, wow, they look sharp, right? I want to dress like that one day. And that kind of moved into the banking side of things, where I got to put on a suit and tie. And going into the loan officer side, I knew that that opportunity was going to open up more doors for me to make a bigger impact with everything that I was doing. So I just really fell in love with the opportunity to be able to help, especially at that time, my community, when there wasn't a lot of loan officers that looked like me. There wasn't a lot of loan officers that spoke my language, that spoke Spanish, that could relate to that client base. And I knew that I could do something with that. And sure enough, 25 years later, it's paid off.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Time goes by fast. 25 years isn't what it used to be. It goes by in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, it does.
So, talk to me a little bit about that. You had mentioned being able to serve an industry to an underserved market, because at the time, 25 years ago, when I first got in the business, there weren't a lot of large organizations that had bilingual services, and certainly to the Latino community. And you've been a trailblazer, past leader at NARAP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals in Chicago. And so you've shown your commitment to that. What was it like in the early days, being one of the first to bring quality service to the community? How did that feel? What was it like?
It was incredible. I owe it all to the mentorship that I had at LaSalle Bank and Richard Roller. I got to sit in with him and he was a top 10 producer at LaSalle Bank. And so I got to sit in every single day. I'm sorry about that. I got to sit in on every single application, where he would basically bring every customer in, and I would sit in on every single one, and I would see people's finances, assets, and all that. And so it felt amazing, and I was just jumping in my seat when I was going to get my turn to do that for someone else. So it was incredible. And honestly, Alex, my mom is, I owe her a debt of gratitude. She was a 30-year loyal employee at a factory where she made no more than $22,000 a year.
Yeah.
And for her having a son that was, for her, she called it, my son looks good in a suit, you need to call him, right? She didn't really completely understand exactly what I did, but she was proud to hand out my cards that had my face on it. And she was really the springboard to my career, because she would take my business cards, a stack of them, and every week she'd ask me for more. So I helped so many people within her company get new homes. So it felt amazing.
That's awesome. Well, I must say, Jose, you do look dashing in a suit.
I
mean,
appreciate that. Thank
still
you, sir.
25 years later, and you still got it, my man. You still
Yeah,
got it.
I had to drop the tie. My
I
fiance
know,
won't
I
let me
know.
put on a tie anymore. She's like, nope, no more ties for you.
Yeah, yeah. I have a whole bunch of them in my closet, but I don't wear ties anymore.
Maybe one day they'll come back. Who knows?
Yes, yes. I must say I am happy, because when I first got into business, it was, real suit and ties. You dressed, business. Uh,
Yes.
there's just a business casual sense to real estate now, so that you can, we work really hard,
Right.
and it's
Exactly right.
I actually enjoy some things. I like formalities, some things I don't. So that's
Well, you always look dashing in a suit, Alex.
thank you,
Whenever I
thank
see
you.
you at the
Well,
network
we,
events.
we we all gotta try. We gotta try hard,
That's right.
Yeah. So now, in the work that you do, you obviously are helping hundreds and hundreds of families get financing. I want to talk to you about that in a bit, but before we go into that, you have a very unique position in the amount of volume that you do. You work with a lot of realtors and all kinds of different levels of the life cycle. So when I say life cycle, people get into business as brand new licensees, and then you start to develop and grow. So you might find somebody who just got their license a couple months ago and they're doing their first deal, or you may have a seasoned 20-year professional. And I wanted to dive into, when you look at agents who are top agents, what are some of the things that you find that strike out, that say, wow, that person's above the rest in professionalism and just understanding their craft? What are some of the things that you see being outside of real estate that you could say, that's a great realtor?
Yeah, I really enjoy that question, and I knew you'd ask that. And so there's no prep work in this, guys, by the way. It was just, for me, I see heart,
Mhm.
right? I see heart, and I don't see them looking at it as a transaction. I see them treating their business as a business. There's a big difference in that when you're looking at a transaction as a transaction versus having heart and looking at your business and treating it as a business. The best agents that I've had the privilege to work with, day in and day out, they have grit, they're hungry, and they get up and dress up and show up, and they're positive, right? Their mindset is in it. They're not letting the noise that's around us distract them from what the mission is, right? The mission is get these home buyers into the best possible home for them and their family.
Right. Well, I like one thing that you said. I've become a new fan of the word grit and what it really means. And over I got licensed in, I don't know, sometime 91, 92. and that's 1991.
Wow.
19.
You don't look a day over 21, Alex. I
I
don't know
know,
what you
I
are.
know. You know,
The historic era.
it's all the arroz con gandules.
That's right.
Keeps you
I
young.
love it.
Keeps you young. But what I found is that throughout all my career, there's always been uh, challenges, and there's always been setbacks, and sometimes you think that the goals are not going to happen, but I'm always positive. I want to be successful. So you talk about positivity. Let's talk about what is it that you need to be positive of. That no matter what happens, I'm positive. I want to make it, and I'm going to do what it takes. I was talking to a friend about, what he thought were my lessons to success. Or why, and I said one thing to him, and you resonate this quite a bit because we have the opportunity to record this call, but I talk quite a
Right.
bit about with you success when there's no recording.
Yes.
And I'll say that a lot of times when we start talking about the science and the art of being successful, what I've learned is that success is not negotiable, that there's certain principles that you can't say, well, I would like to do it this way, and
Sure.
it's like, and I'm not, maybe you're not supposed to get political or religious, but it's like if somebody like Moses comes down with the 10 Commandments and you say, well, maybe you should call them suggestions.
Right. Right.
You don't do that. There's just some things that are set in stone. And one of the things that I found with success is that you can't make it suggest, like, I'll say to a new realtor and they'll say, what do you need to do to be successful? I say, you need to contact new people. And there's got to be a certain number that you need to contact of new people. There's an old time trainer, his name was Floyd Wickman. These are going back to the early 80s. And one of the things that these old times people would say, 20 belly to belly is the secret to success. Meaning that if you're face to face with somebody brand new, you're going to be successful,
I
So
love that.
what a lot of people will say to me is, well, Alex, I really want to get my license. I want to be successful. I want to be a top agent, but I really don't want to prospect. I don't like that. Or I might say to them, you should try doing open houses because you don't have a strong sphere of influence yet. No, I want to get my license. I'll do this, I'll do that, but I don't want to do open houses. And then I'll say, well, how long have you been in real estate? Well, I just got my license last week. And then you're telling me what you don't want to do. So that means they're negotiating what their tolerance, likes, and dislikes are to be able to build this career. Now, the problem is that one of the greatest strengths that we have as human beings is that we can put in our individuality to anything.
Yes.
But the core principles never change. So going back to, your dialogue with what you see, heart, a lot of that has to be let me ask you, when you say heart, is that somebody who's just saying, hey, I do what it takes? Is that what it means? Like, what does heart mean when you see it?
For me, it's whatever it takes, whatever the customer wants. It's in anything that we do, right? And it's really not looking at your clients as a dollar sign, but more so as how would my own family members want to be treated, right? How would I want to be treated? And am I getting rushed from house to house, or are they seeing this as, a lifelong relationship? And that's the way I go about every single relationship that I have. I have new friends, right? If I close a customer, I just made 2 new friends, or that entire family.
That's awesome. That's the golden rule, right?
Yes.
That's the and then what is the other one? I heard this one in a sales one. So there's the golden rule, and that's treat people as you'd want to be treated.
That's right.
I think what do they say? It's the platinum rule: treat people how they want to be treated. So you gotta
want to be treated. Yeah.
You gotta ask them. Like what are your expectations?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So what are some of the key points to make that breakaway moment? Let's say that somebody is climbing the ladder, but usually there's a breakaway point. There's a point where somebody skyrockets and there's a change. What do you think fuels that breakaway point where somebody becomes the average to being a top agent?
Yeah, wow, that's a fantastic question. And I've seen it throughout my career where I've seen it in loan officers, I've seen it in real estate agents, and it really applies to anything else that someone takes on. You can look at it as if someone's taking on a weight challenge, or if they're taking on anything, if they want to be a better parent, right? You've been average, but how do I go to great, right? The good to great book is amazing. And the traits that I see are those that have the right mentorship and are surrounded themselves by the right people. The most interesting thing I always see is, and it's fascinating because you'll see someone just kind of skating by, and they're around a particular group of people, but the minute you take them out of that group and pluck them into another group where all the activities are surrounded around positive, forward thinking, energetic type of things, that's contagious, right? Just as much as the negativity is contagious.
Absolutely.
That's where I see a trajectory really take off, because now they don't want to be the one that's left behind. They want to catch up to those guys that are doing better. So it's the same analogy, right? Don't be the smartest person in the room. You have to get into different rooms, and I think that's how you start pushing yourself.
That is so true. I speak quite a bit about kind of like, the who's in your sphere of influence.
Right.
And generally in sales, we say, who do you have in your sphere of influence? You influence, but we never think about who's influencing us.
Wow.
And I'll say, I always tell people when I say this, I'm not saying that you should cut people off or unfriend people, but there's got to be more people that are positive in your life than negative. But beyond that, you cannot be the biggest fish in the pond. If you are the biggest fish in the pond, you got to get to a place where people are doing more. And if you're selling 5 million, you have to be talking to agents that are selling 10, 20, 30 million. You have to be meeting with them, engaging with them, make friends with people. And if you're a millionaire, then you have to start hanging around with people who have hundreds of millions. And then you have to start talking with people who have billions. And if you don't have access to that, and you're right, there's a sense of magnetism that you will keep up with people. And
Yes.
and I think that one of the greatest strengths that we have, I think that there are a set amount of human traits that are our greatest strengths, but are also our greatest weakness. And I will share it with you too, and you tell me what you think.
Sure.
Number one, our greatest strength is that we are adaptable. We could go live next to a smoldering volcano and make it look great. And
so true.
We'd work around it, right? Yeah. And the other thing is that we keep pace. Most human beings don't want to break ahead alone, so they'll pace the pack. So if everybody is running, a certain time to hit to the finish line, you will pace them. And so that's great. That's great that we could adapt to that. But it's also a great weakness, because if you're adapting to mediocrity, then you're not going to grow. And if you're pacing to people who aren't really trying to even finish the race, then where are you going? I mean, what do you think about that?
That's fascinating. And I'm going to pause there for a second, because that is deep, Alex, and so good, in the sense that we are very adaptable. And because we're so adaptable, I never saw it from that set of lens, where you can very easily adapt to being mediocre, just as much as you can adapt to being, excellent and a master at anything. Yeah, and keeping pace is spot on. I mean, that's as human beings, we don't want to be left behind. And if you're in a group where everyone is pulling you down, you're gonna adapt to that, right?
Yeah.
Into this other side. Love that.
You just said something brilliant, and people. This is the irony of this, is that people don't want to be left behind. that doesn't, but that means that they also breaking ahead alone is being left alone, and it feels like you're being left behind. So you could be left behind forward or left behind in the back of the pack. So we pace.
Yes.
And that's why they say, man, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah. Right.
But it really doesn't have to be, because if you if you're intentional and you go out to find a group of like-minded people, then it won't be lonely on the top.
No.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
It's
so
not
good, Alex.
So how have you created, kind of like your circle to drive your success over these 25 years? What are things that you've done?
Yeah, I would say that early on when I started in my career, my manager did something very smart. I was about to follow the traditional university path like my oldest brother did. He's the bookworm and the guy that got the masters, and and then my middle brother was just he had grit as far as working with his hands, and I kind of was the hybrid of the two of them, because I loved reading, but I also loved people, and I wasn't the sports guy, but I was the dancer in the family.
All right.
So I had that theater side in me, and I'm like, all right, well, what do we do with this, right? And so luckily I got turned on to financing very quickly. But the first year in my career, I didn't even know about self-help. Mind you, I grew up in the north side of Chicago. My parents were immigrants from Mexico, and we were just you didn't know any better. Nothing. You didn't feel like you were missing anything either.
Yeah.
Life was good. I grew up in a neighborhood where there was brown, red, purple, green. It was all the same to me. I got along with all of them. But she brought in a trainer and her name is Anna Gata. She brought in a trainer from the Tony Robbins company 25 years ago.
Wow.
And I didn't even know who that was, right? And this guy named Anthony Brown came in and just started pumping his chest and doing push-ups, and I looked at my buddy next to me, and we were both assistants, I think, at that time. And they sold us a package to sign up for this Anthony Robbins guy. And then I took on I signed up because back then they just sold you on buy one get one free, but it was really the price for two. It was just fancy marketing. And the rest was history. So from there I just dove into the world of self-help. So I was self-taught in a lot of ways, and then from there I just really started associating myself with people that just had the same type of energy that I had, and that weren't gossiping, that really just wanted to do well and grow. So that's how I've kept myself. And I haven't been perfect, right? 25 years, you go into these ebbs and woes because of life. But now, you mentioned this, Alex, and it really resonated with me. And we had not even connected on what I was on, but I think you saw it in me. You're like, you're on a path to excellence. I think you mentioned it like that, and I am, right? So when you make a decision, a conscious decision to say, all right, enough of being here, how do I get here? Right. And it's got to go beyond the books. It's got to go beyond that. It's got to be a personal mindset. And for me, it was, all right, what do I need to give up in order to get to the next place, right? Whatever that is, right? And everyone can identify with whatever that is in their own life. I took on a couple challenges myself this year, and my path to excellence has actually brought me around really good people because I'm seeking it out, right? And that's what you call that, right? When you're looking for a red car and then you're shopping for a red car, then you see all the red cars.
Exactly.
You're searching for excellence. Excellence keeps coming in, man, and it's awesome. And I've been invited to this, which I think is phenomenal. I'm really honored to be here, and I hope that the audience gets a lot out of it.
Oh man, and now I remember what we were talking about. So just for the audience's sake, Jose and I were just talking, and I go, very casual, like, oh yeah, Jose, I've noticed that you're on a journey and a path to excellence.
journey.
And then he's like, and then you're like, yeah, how did you know? And I go, dude, it's like all over. It's like I know you're like ready to take the steps. And it's interesting that you say that there's some things that you need to cut out or to be able to say, hey, there's certain things that served me to get me to this point, but now I need to change. So you know that I've been on my weight loss journey.
Yes.
So
And you look incredible, Alex, by the way.
thank
Really.
you, thank you. 100 as of this recording, 120 pounds that I've
Wow.
lost.
You
So,
must be so proud. Mhm.
but you, thank you. But you know that in business and certainly in the Latino community, when somebody offers you food, it's like,
It's rude to say no.
it's rude to say no. But I'm like non-negotiable. So
Nice.
I was at an office meeting and the host brought chocolate cake. And those of you who know me really well know that I love chocolate cake.
Alex, was it Portillo's?
Yeah, well, it was one of those like like super super like big
Yeah.
chocolate cakes. So I say to them, no, thank you, but I don't eat. And then every meeting that we would do, she'd bring food like cakes and cookies, and I would say, no. So she's like, you just won't eat my food with me. And I'm like, no, I can't. I said, you have to understand that I've eaten so much chocolate cake through my 54 years of life that I have a reserve to last me 20 years to not have to eat chocolate cake again. That's how much chocolate cake I've eaten.
I love that answer.
Yeah, and I'm okay, But the thing is that, and this is gonna sound totally hokey and corny, but so I haven't eaten those things, so I don't even have an impulse to eat it. It's like gone, and so that's where I feel like that's a miracle and a blessing to like not have the desire or the impulse to eat it. But what I did is that I had a farewell ceremony, and I said, chocolate cake. Throughout this life that I've had, you've been amazing. And thank you for everything you've given me. But from this day on, there ain't no more chocolate cake, and I just want to say goodbye. And I said farewell to it. And, because sometimes you could demonize it and say like, oh, it's bad for you. And I go, I don't know if it was good or bad, but I know that it brought me a lot of enjoyment, and that doesn't serve me anymore.
Wow.
And I have to move on. And you are so right about sometimes you have to let certain things go because of the timing or that it no longer serves you anymore. And tell me a little bit about how you've put your hands around just writing goals and preparing for the shifts. Now, if anybody knows you're like on a tremendous rapid fire success track. Like every time I look back and see where you are, you're like accelerating at a very fast rate. So how do you organize that, and do you write goals or business plans or not? And how do you put your hands around your next steps?
Sure. Yeah. And I love, by the way, what you said, non-negotiable and serve you. And I'm going to come back to that if I could, but
sure.
It's for me, it was how do I do it? For me, it was all about making a decision. I made a decision and I asked myself, and something just clicked, and it said, why not me? Why not me? Right? I always loved, I always marveled over other people's success. And I always said, wow, no matter what the market is doing, no matter what's going on, maybe in their own life, they're always at the top, right? You think about sports, and you really can't begin to understand until maybe you're our age, what the Bulls did in the 90s, right? What Michael Jordan did.
Yeah.
Three-peat, took some time off right in the middle, right? The grit and what it took to get there, and not being satisfied with one, right? But going after dominance. And for me, I ask myself that every morning. And this year really was the time where the student was ready. And I told myself, why not me? And if it's meant to be, it's up to me and I can't make any excuses. And that
Oh
was,
man, I gotta
that's
write
really
that
it.
down. If it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Yeah, and
That
that
is
was really
amazing.
it.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. You know, I don't know who said it. I know that the late and great Ernie Reyes, who's the founder of NIRAP, um, he he was an amazing individual, and he would go up on stage and and he was quoting this. So if anybody listening to this podcast knows who actually said this, let us know. But what he would say, a quote was, "If not now, then when? And if not you, then who?" And he was really speaking to what you're talking about now, is that they call the future, um, they call the present because that is what you deserve, and you have to define it and make it, and you should not be concerned about whether you deserve it or not, or whether you can do it. One of the things that I think that we learned as children, as being Gen Xers, first of all, just so everybody knows, as Gen Xers, Jose and I can fix anything with duct tape and PVC pipe, right?
That's right.
And scissors. We don't need any more tools.
Nope.
That's basically all I need with home repair. And if I want to get fancy, I might get like Velcro and put something together. But that's what Generation X was. And that's why when you speak about self-help, we are the self-help generation, because you and I didn't, like right now, many of you may not know this, but Jose is a mentor. He mentors people, he coaches people, and so do I. And we help people. And there's this new generation coming into the business that has access to mentors and coaching. When Jose and I got into business 20, 30 years ago, maybe you'd get one person who would take you under your wing, and you were lucky if you did. But the rest of us just had to pick it up. And that meant going to seminars. If that meant going to Tony Robbins and walking on hot coals, you did it.
Right.
If you meant writing on book or reading a book, you did it. So one thing that I feel great about the evolution of the business world that we live in is that there's a democratization to coaching, and the average person coming into the business now has access to mentorship. Before, that was reserved for the elite in our industry. And I might sound controversial in saying that, but I didn't have access to it. Maybe I got one or two people that guided me, but now there's just so much. And what's crazy, man, is that you can get coaching and mentorship from an app on a phone. I mean, it's just there.
And yeah.
And it's just there for you. But so those are tremendous points that you made. And and I'm glad that this is your time right now, because you are helping a lot of people get into homeownership. And why don't we talk a little bit about your company now?
Sure.
Why don't you tell us where you work and kind of like what you do in as your day job when you're not being motivationally awesome to the world? So
No, I appreciate that, Alex. And I will go back real quick because I didn't answer your question. I feel bad about it. You asked if I do if I have a business plan or if I have goals.
sure.
What I started to work on are my habits. So there's this amazing book called the Atomic Habits. Incredible. I recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
So what I started working on was my habits, right? And I have a power list now. It's all part of the Andy Frisella 75 Hard program. Today's day 30, ironically enough, of phase 1. So if anyone's heard of 75 Hard, Andy Frisella, absolutely, I recommend it. It's not easy, and you will fail. So be okay with that, maybe once, twice. But once you get through it, it's an incredible transformation that you'll go through. I've gone through the first 75 hard was just a warm-up. Phase 1 adds another 30 days to it. But what I'm getting to is that the 30 days included a power list. It's exactly what you just said, Alex. It's the non-negotiables. So in my phase 1, every day for the past 30 days, I've had non-negotiables, 8 items that I have on my phone. And those 8 items are my non-negotiables on how, what habits do I need to be doing, or what should I be doing on a daily basis to get me closer to my goal. So you can't look at it at, an Atomic Habits shows you that you just got to be 1% better than you were yesterday. 1%, anyone can be 1% better. Yeah. And so for me,
Compound interest, right, banker?
compound interest, man. That's it. Yeah. So the power list for me is, hey, every day I need to call two of my past clients every single day, non-negotiable. If it's 8 o'clock at night, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling. I'm writing 2 thank you cards every single day, no matter what, for the past 30 days. I hit that post office and I lick those stamps and I put them all on there all month. And it's been an incredible transformation. Every day I have to talk to two new realtors. Every day I have to talk to, so it just goes on and on. So really look at what a power list looks like, and you're just going to get into a habit of doing these things. And it's not rocket science. That's what top producers are already doing. Michael Jordan, I'm sure, was practicing every single morning before a game. Tiger Woods, I think he just talked about it, right? Where he has to connect with the ball 500 times before he goes out and plays. And he may connect 100 of the times and miss 400, but it's a non-negotiable for him. So I just had to throw that out there, Alex, because it was impactful what you said. And then the serve you, whatever's not serving you anymore. It doesn't mean that, if you have to let go of people, you just bless them.
Yeah.
You don't serve. Our relationship is not serving me anymore, and I bless you. And I'm going to see you from afar, because that's not where I'm at anymore, right? Whatever that means in your own life. So thought I had to share that, Alex. But
that's awesome.
As far as where I'm at today, I'm at Cross Country Mortgage. It's we're a leader in the mortgage space. I've had the fortune to work with a lot of great companies, and I've been with Cross Country now for 6 months, and they're based out of Ohio. And they're doing so many things right, and there's a sense of entrepreneurship here, where there's not a lot of layers between the sales force, boots on the ground, and the owner, which I really thoroughly enjoy. And 99% of the things that customers throw at me as far as loans that they need, I can do. Rather than saying no, we have found a way to get them done internally. My specialty is renovation financing, as you know, Alex.
I know.
Yeah, and it's been an amazing journey. It's taken me into a lot of different platforms and stages. Just this morning, I got to speak, right? You got to change your terminology. I got to speak to 50 agents this afternoon, and I got to share my message, right? And renovation financing, when you take the complexity out of it and you look at what it actually means, with the average home in the United States being 40 years old, and in Illinois alone, it's over 51 years old. Think of that opportunity that you have as a realtor, as a lender, to be able to begin to transform one home at a time, and usually an entire community, because again, it carries on. Somebody fixes their front door, the next person doesn't want to be left behind, right? It's not by accident that you drive into some neighborhoods and all the grass is green and everything is clean. That's how I see renovation financing.
Right. Just for a clarifying point, like when somebody does drive on my neighborhood, my grass, is the greenest and the best.
I love it.
They can try, and I encourage them to try to get to that level of mastery. But
Alex, are there some filters on there? Because I know you got a lot of fancy technical stuff, gadgets. No filters on top of that grass, like an invisible.
Yeah. It's like, remember when we were kids and they had like orange shag rugs?
Yeah. Oh wow.
That's like that's how awesome it is. It looks like I just laid carpet, man.
Oh, I love
perfection.
it. I gotta come and take my shoes off and put my feet through that one.
What can I say, man? Just in closing, you've had an amazing career. You've had a career of service, and just as a little bit, you've also stretched yourself in actually putting your knowledge in Facebook Reels and whatnot. And a lot of people have a hard time doing that because, there's, for many reasons, it could be they're self-conscious, they don't understand social media, but you really made the effort to engage. Can you, before we wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about how you started? You're super consistent and your message
Thank
is
you.
right on target. So can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. And yeah, I made a decision again at the beginning of the year to stop making excuses on why I wasn't doing it. And I kept seeing everyone just taking off, right? It's like starting at the starting line, and then there, somebody posts a video and you're that much further away from that person because you haven't done one. And then you look up and it's a year later and you're just that much further behind. So I had the privilege of doing a loan for a customer who happens to be a famous TikToker, and he gave me some really, really, choice words. And he's like, the camera, the lighting, and your hair, and the situation will never be perfect. You need to just jump in,
Let's do it.
and
Let's do it.
and sure enough, I just said, you know what, he's right. What am I so worried about, right? So, and he, the best thing he could have told me was like, your first 10 videos are gonna be horrible. They're gonna be brutal. But by the time you get to your 11th video, it's gonna be better than your first one.
Yeah,
And guess what? By the time you do your 50th, it's gonna be better than your 11th one.
that's
So
right.
so for me, it was a decision. It was just turning on the camera. And really, it wasn't anything much more than taking what I already know from 25 years of doing this business. And that's what I would share with everyone. You already know, it's already in you. Greatness is in you already. And
Right.
you've already closed so many transactions, and you've had different experiences. You just got to share that. Somebody needs to hear it. And no one, and the one piece of advice that I think I've really resonated was, no one can be you.
Yeah.
No one can be Alex. No one can be me. No one can be you. And that's how the world goes around, because you're unique and you have something to say. And believe it or not, someone on the other side of the camera needs to hear it. So you're
Yeah.
really doing a disservice if you're not on camera, because that's where, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, right? Those that are gonna not catch on are gonna be left behind. It's not a negotiable anymore. To your point,
Right.
right? It's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable now, more than ever before. If you think video is important today, where do you think it's going to, the necessity for it a year from now is going to be? So
Right.
you don't need fancy lighting. You don't need anything other than your phone. It's got an amazing, I mean, these phones have amazing technology.
Yeah.
Turn it
Yeah.
on, flip it around, and share your story. And the consistency, Alex, is just part of the journey to excellence.
Yeah.
You got to be consistent. You got to do daily posting. Batching is a big thing, where you just batch a bunch of videos, and then you just got to keep it fresh. Try to keep the same look. And for me, I'm expanding into YouTube as my next endeavor. But
Nice.
yeah, but it's been fun, and I appreciate all the feedback you've given me and others have given me. It just really is a springboard. And I really do enjoy now being that voice and being that coach for others that are asking me these kind of questions, like, hey, how do you do it, man? Like, how do I jump on? And it's a decision you got to make, and you got to want to do it.
I have called Jose many a times and say, so how do I upload the video to the reel? And then
Right.
whenever I do a Facebook Live and Jose is with me, not only are we like unscripted and comedic, we have like comedic timing there, so we're
Yeah,
both
we go.
laughing, but I get more views when Jose's on, so I try to
Oh,
recruit him to come in. But in closing, I'll say one thing that I thought that I'd like to leave you with, the audience. What I hear from Jose is that, one of the things that I find that's amazing about this world that we live in is that this is a world of discovery. And people discover things. Some people invent, but the things that are most profound, people get their Nobel prizes for discovery of new elements of the world and a vision. And what Jose said is that success is inside you. It's always been there. It's already there. You just need to develop it and discover it and let yourself believe in it. But it's there, whether people want to believe it or not. And I'll share one thing with you, Jose, is that the difference between success and failure is very subtle. You don't have to change a lot to be able to be successful. And that's the
So true.
that success is not on the other side of the world. Success might be a few inches from you. You might just be right there. You know, it's like the sad stories of people who used to mine for gold, and they would leave a foot away from the vein of gold that was right there. They would just say, "I'm giving up,"
Yes.
and they're like a
Yes.
foot or half a foot away from fundamentally changing their lives. So,
So
Jose,
close.
Jose, thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate you, and thank you for joining us at the Century 21 Circle Top Agent podcast. We'd love to have you back again.
I would
And
love to come back, and thank you for having me, Alex. It was a lot of fun.
all right, and don't be a stranger and still come to the office, and we'll do Facebook Live. All right, man.
All right, you got
All
it.
right. Take
All
care.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.